Welcome to the Top 200 Podcast
All right.
with your host, Herschel Fawn.
What's up, everybody? What's up, everyone? This is Herschel from High School Top 200, and this is your Monday morning meeting. We're going to get through some stuff, obviously, with the New Zealand Secondary Schools Barbarians Māoris team that is coming out. I don't know when, sometime today. Had a mean day yesterday, obviously, because all my teams won yesterday. The All Blacks won. Massive game. BYU beat Utah University for the first time in 9 years. It was going to be 10-0. Tragic. But it's just the way that is. Penn State won, easy game. Georgia won, easy game. So it was a pretty good Sunday. We're gonna go through. I wanted to put this out before because I just wanted to kind of get it out even before New Zealand Barbarians and the New Zealand team and the Māori team officially named their teams. Just so that you can see what the difference is between my picks and what their picks are. And obviously it's all my just opinion, and it's based off a lot of stuff that I've watched and that I've viewed and that people I've talked to. And so I went through, the way that I did it was that I selected my New Zealand secondary school first, my team first, and who I thought would make New Zealand secondary schools. And then I started sort of putting them into their own nationalities, into the under 18 Tongan, Samoan, Māoris, and then the New Zealand Barbarians team, which is everybody else in that group there. And so everybody that I have selected, I have seen at least 3 times this year. Whether I've been to their game or I have seen them on film, I have watched everybody at least 3 times, except for Lucas Payne, who plays up at Dargaville High School. I've seen twice, and that was on live stream. But I did see him last year as well when he played for the Blues and when they played their finals. Actually, they had a finals that they live streamed, and I saw the Blues and I saw the New Zealand Barbarians team that he made last year as well. And so everybody else I've seen quite a few times this year, and obviously because I've been following since they were 15, most of them I've followed since they were 15 and year 11 or sometime around then, and so I kind of know how everybody is anyway, and seeing them add on to their games year after year, and so it a lot of them haven't been a surprise to me in terms of how good they actually are this year. A lot of them I even thought that they would be that great too, and there's some, and like just how you would I guess characterize teenagers in a way that there's some guys that are more developed. They develop a lot earlier. They develop a lot younger, like physically, at least physically, they develop younger. And then they may hit their peak when they're younger, and guys that are sort of normal height when they're younger, and then all of a sudden they just sort of stop growing and they stay that same height. And so things like that is always like a common thing. That's not uncommon. That's pretty common in New Zealand rugby. Like you see guys that rip up when the year 11s, and then year 12 and year 13, everybody else grows, gets bigger, gets stronger, gets taller, and some guys sort of just stay the same. And you don't really know who that is or who it's going to be. You just kind of just wait and see and how they develop. And so a lot of these boys that I have seen, most of them, more than 80% of them I have seen since they were year 11, and I've talked about them since they were year 11 as well. And so when I started to put my New Zealand secondary schools team together, I thought a lot about how many combinations I thought worked out together, how many combinations I thought fit well together, and then how they would play a style of game with that. And I kind of believe, and this is not how New Zealand secondary schools picks their teams. That's not how they do it at all. They don't pick it based on the best players in the country. Sometimes it's based upon what kind of guys they want to fulfill, how they want to play, or what direction rugby is going to go into. They sort of select the guys that fit that mold to come into it, because they ask selectors in different when they give somebody a position to select from, they say this is what we want him to be, and this is the mold that we're looking for, and that everyone, and they've got a list of things that they want that player to fulfill, and then they pick the best guy, and then they go, well, we feel like it goes like this, and they put them in order, and then the coach has the last say to see who the best one is to fit what they have picked, and then they go, okay, that's how it is. And so, like, that's why you see a lot of guys that sort of don't make New Zealand secondary schools or don't make New Zealand Barbarians, but then the next year they're trialing for New Zealand under-20s. Is because, like, sometimes the mold is different from when they go from one to the next, or some guys, I guess, have that spirit at the end of, the year in first 15, and then going on to under-20s, they have this big, at least growth, or they just switch and it just clicks to them, and, or a coach in their club team has played them a certain way that they're going, oh, okay, he fits like that, and he kind of looks good. And that's the other thing too, is that some coaches may be playing you a different way, then you're going to get to a next coach, and then he's going to sort of just rearrange your game where you just all of a sudden get it, and then you just become a better player. So that's what I've always loved about New Zealand coaches, especially here in New Zealand in first 15, is that our coaches are so... they're just way above average. They're way above what a normal coach is kind of sort of looked at to be. Like, I think the level and the level and standard of our coaches in New Zealand first 15 rugby, especially in our big schools, is a really, really high standard. And I don't think a lot of kids see it that way, because they kind of just see them as a first 15 coach. But if you kind of look at the way that they develop their boys in terms of positioning, in terms of the way that they have them play the game, and how they run the game, how they see the game, and how they react and counter-react, all those kind of things is stuff that some of the best coaches in New Zealand do, and New Zealand does. And then it's been given to our first 15 players, and they've been given those attributes and skills and knowledge from first 15 to take it into 20s and club and all that kind of stuff. And so by the time they get to professionals, they've already got all this stuff anyway. And that's kind of why I like the way that New Zealand is going after recently retired rugby players, professional rugby players that have been ex-All Blacks or ex-Super Rugby players, and they're hiring those guys to come into the schools and then sort of give them first-hand account of how it is to be a professional, how it is to train as a professional, the intensity that you need, and then also teaching them current stuff that is working today in the pro level, and then they bring it here into first 15. And so I like that approach that a lot of New Zealand schools are doing right now. And so I think that's really, really upped our game, and the way that our coaches have been coached and been taught and been trained and been educated, and the way that they're bringing it and then developing our first 15 players has made a massive difference into how good our players are in New Zealand. And I think a lot of you guys out there that are playing first 15 right now and that are all top players, you've got to think of yourselves as the best players in the world right now in your age group. You guys are actually some of the best players in your age group in the world, not just in New Zealand, not just at your school, not just in the North Island, and the South Island, or even just in the Pacific. It's the world that you're not just the best player in New Zealand in your position, you're probably the best player in the world in your position at this age group. And you guys got to think about it kind of like that, because that's exactly what you are. You are that good. Don't think that this is just like a normal thing. You are that good. And you're strong enough to even be better than that. That's why you guys are picked for these teams. That's why you guys have trained so hard and have put yourself at a level that you are that good right now, is because you are strong enough to be that. Your positivity and your strength and your mental strength is right up there, and that's what's made you one of the best players in the world. So all these guys that are ranked, to me, the way that I look at it, all you guys that are ranked in the top 30 to 50 players, just on my ranking list, and I'm just talking about my list, I would put you guys up against the best guys in South Africa and England and Scotland and France and Australia, and like guys like that. Like, you guys are that good. some of you guys need to think about it that way too, because in reality, like, you guys are going to be the guys that are on TV next, in the next 5 years, and that's not that far out. That really isn't that far out. Like, some of you guys went to school with Quintu Paia, and with Tupou Va'ai. Like, he was the year 13 when you were year 9. It's like that kind of stuff. And so, like, for you guys as well, it's just like you guys are not that far off from professionalism, and your skill sets are so much higher than a lot of even men around the world are playing at that level. You guys are that good. I kind of think of it in the way that we are kind of like a factory in a way, like, for players. I mean, any of you guys could sort of, I guess, have a sort of a test outside our country and see what's out there for you, and see what out there. And all you guys have to do is go to all the games that you have, make your own highlight tapes of yourself, and whoever your agent is, just give it to them and say, just see what I can get from France, or see what I can get from England, or see what I can get and what they're offering, and if they like me. You don't have to necessarily just do it here in New Zealand. Not at all. But that's how good you are. And you guys just don't know that. You just don't know how good you are. But that's how good you are, to the point where you can tell your agents, like, oh, just see what Japan has for me and see if I like it there, or, maybe just go to Australia. Somewhere that's not quite far. It's quite open. It's quite open in terms of having New Zealand talent over there, and our levels of talent is so much higher to those guys. And so, if you really want to see how good you are, I guarantee overseas, like, you're going to get a pretty good offer over there. And so, the way that I saw these teams, and the way that I saw the players, was like, once I picked my New Zealand secondary schools team, I looked at everybody else and just started putting them nationalities. So that's kind of how I came up with it. Like, even when, like, for the Barbarians, for example, right, I chose Rickard Snyman from Westlake Boys, Sean Ralph from Hamilton Boys, and Gus Brown from Napier Boys. Now, Gus Brown I didn't pick so that he could jump, because I got guys like Tommy Hamilton and also Netani Somo. And I put Netani at lock, and then I put Ashton Tiao at 6, because I wanted to make sure that there was a lot of height on that field. Tommy's about 6'6", almost 6'7". Netani's about 6'4", 6'5". But because he's such a big runner, and he's done that all this year for Nelson College, he's done it so much, I wanted to make sure that him, Ashton, Tino Salvia, and Max Ratcliffe were all on the field at sort of the same time, building themselves up in pods, making sure that my attack was always going to be current and always going to be a threat. It's the same with Gus Brown and Rickard Snyman was the same. As I would use Rickard the same way that they use him at Westlake Boys, where they kind of pitch him out on the edge somewhere. And if I just had Rickard, Sean, and had someone like Max, and just their own little pod out there on sort of between centre and wing, and sort of had the hard work go through and skip some hands and go straight to them, I know that any one of those three could make a break or take that hit up, make the break, and then the other two simultaneously just go into support role. Like Sean Ralph, like, I think one of the things that Sean Ralph offers so much is the fact that he makes the good decisions on the field. And that's whether that's if he's heading up the ball, or if he's running in support, or knows how to give the extra pass. Like, I like the fact that the reason why Sean is so good to me is that he doesn't die with the ball. He knows that there's other options, and he could easily give that offload, get a little bit more ground, and then he'll be right there to clean out. And he always makes good decisions like that. And it's kind of the same as what he was like last year too, and why he was so good last year is that he made all these great decisions on the run, and you knew that if there was going to be a situation like that he'll be all right to handle it, and you wouldn't sort of get a bit nervous if he was out there. That's what I always liked about him. So I thought, like, when they had someone like Rickard, Sean and Gus is that like, well, scrum-wise, they'll be solid. General work around the field, they'll be solid as well. But then when it comes time for running, I knew that all three of them would be able to take it. Having Natani in there, great. Tommy's a hard worker. Not so much a big-time runner or anything like that, but he's going to get you the line-outs. He's going to, do all the extra tackling, stuff like that. But then having such good runners like Tino and Max, those are the kind of the guys I was looking for that. So like when I started looking at the Barbarians team and sort of going, well, these are the players I had, and I thought, well, if I put it like this and sort of arrange them around, Ashton's always going to outwork a lot of guys, and I felt like you needed him on the field no matter what, because his work rate is so high. He's physical but sometimes over physical. But I mean, I think that's just how he runs. It's just over physical, and it's just how he plays the game. And you needed someone like him and Tino, because him, Tino, and Max kind of are the real physical, up front, in your face kind of players. And so I kind of like that at a controlled. In a controlled sense. I like physicality, but I like it controlled. I don't like it, all over the place where you're just grabbing jerseys and collars and all that kind of stuff all the time. But when you're hitting hard. When you're blowing somebody out really hard. If you're going to take them out really hard, I like that kind of thing. Throw your bodies into tackles, when you're running the ball. And then going with someone like Cohen, and I've talked about Cohen Brady Latham before from Pukekohe High School, is that I feel like all he needs is teammates at his level and the way that he plays. And I've said it before about him, is that like if he was in an environment like a big school environment, I think we'd be talking about him a lot different. I think they would be mentioning him in different kind of conversations. And I think sometimes we forget that just because that's part of small schools, it doesn't mean that they're not good enough to play with, or their school's not good enough to play the bigger schools. It's not that, it's that they don't even get the option or opportunity to play the bigger schools. Now, one advice I would have for small school first 15s and for their coaches and their selectors and stuff is that if they keep an eye on the team that they have, knowing that their team actually is a pretty big contender, and we've had these over the past that have been like Pukekohe as well. I mean, Upper Hutt High School was one last year that had actually a really strong squad that should have been playing better teams, and they just did it. One time Dunstan was a really massive side. Rangiora's been that side that I've kind of, and rightfully so, like a lot of people have go, well, you're taking, you're being a bit standoffish on how good we are, and you're right, I have sometimes. Rangiora has also been that same way. Waimea combined, what year was it? I can't remember what year was it, but they really, really did push a lot of teams, and they were just that good. They were that, and then Matamata's also kind of having that season this year as well. Is that Matamata's got a really good side where they just don't have the teams to play against. So if you follow this team that you're bringing through and you know that they're going to be really strong, provide them with really, really, really hard or really strong pre-seasons. And one thing that I've noticed about big schools is that they're going to play a lot of smaller schools. So, and sort of like a sneak up attack kind of thing, ask the bigger schools, hey, we'll play pre-season against you. You can use us as one of your guys' warm-ups, and then just really take it to them. And even if you lose within a margin that they can go, oh shoot, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. And that's kind of how you do it, and then show how much that you guys can actually do. Because a lot of people are not going to give small schools respect because of the competition that they play in, and then the competition they don't actually get to play. And so all the opportunities to play bigger schools are going to be taken up throughout the year. So that's one of those kind of things. Cohen is one of these guys that's part of Pukekohe High School, who I think Pukekohe could probably, if they were in the North Harbour competition, they could probably win that competition. That's how good Pukekohe is. And I also think that if Pukekohe was playing in the 1A, they're not finishing last. 100% they're not finishing last. That's how good this team is. All right, so it's like some of these players is like, if that's how good the team is, their best players are going to be like that. Cohen's like this. Cohen needs to players at his level to play with, and then you'll see how much value he adds to your team. Now, I think that if you were able to give him players like Tino and Rickard and Sean, he's gonna be able to provide you so much more opportunities to get within, to get into those holes, to get within, sort of, and hit those weak spots is another thing that he notices a lot. And one thing of Cohen too is that, like, he doesn't really just play the passing game. He does little kicks, he does little chips, he does good box kicks, and he doesn't just play this one way. He'll give you a lot of kind of options. And so I'm always kind of interested to see how he will do in a big school with a lot more talent, and then being able to give him the driver's seat in terms of direction, and go, well, you take control and show us what you can do and show us what you can see. And so, like, when I was looking at that as well, I thought, well, Cohen and Finn Hurley are probably like the two guys who I think are so dynamic players. They're dynamic because Cohen plays really fast. Finn last year was, when he was playing at fullback for Otago Boys, was the same way. Was that the fact that he was being kicked the ball, given so much space and time, and he just broke the line. Like, he was just so fast, so quick, stayed on his feet, which is another thing that, like, a lot of guys don't see with Finn Hurley, is that he stays on his feet and doesn't go to ground easily, and he'll just keep fighting till he's actually just put down. And so I wanted to see how, like, those two would be together in a 9-10 situation, and then how much they'll be able to drive the game. That's why I put guys like Leo Gordon and Ollie Inch from Leo Gordon from Palmy, and then Ollie Inch from Nelson College, because Ollie's not big at all. He's like he's a short, solid guy, not huge, but, like, he's really, really explosive. So he's one of those guys that you're like, oh yeah, I've got him. And then once he runs up first time at you, you tackle him and you go, oh shoot, that was a bit harder than I thought. And then he's going to have that effect on you, kind of thing. And so I wanted to see how he would play with Leo, who's a really good offloader, knows how to break the line, really good footwork when hitting the line, kind of like a league player. And so, if I was a league agent, I'd probably look at Leo as going, hey, what are your plans for next year? I'll probably give it like that. And then making sure that the fact that I have Cohen and Finn running fast, and then sort of playing off the cuff a bit more creative, and then seeing how they can get Leo and Ollie involved with a bit of space and time is kind of how I thought about it when I was looking at this team. And so I couldn't. Lucas Payne is fast, and that's what I know. That's what I like about him, is that he is fast. He is quick. I didn't see much else, but there must be a lot more to him than that. But all I saw was fast and quick. I thought that speed with Isaac Hutchinson, who's a really good organizer from fullback, and then someone like Curtis Heafy, who I know some people are thinking, well, why is Curtis there? Curtis is there because he's also a fullback and he can play fullback, but I don't want to waste someone like that on the bench. Like, why waste someone who's a great runner, who's a great kicker, who knows how to, he's got a really good passing game as well. Why would I put him on the bench? Like, just because that's not his position, why would I play him there? Why would I waste someone like that and put him on the bench? When you need a guy and on the wing who can run, who can kick, who can organize, who can pass, who's really good communicators, like, that's why he's there. And I wanted it to be like that so that if anything, any kind of trouble in terms of getting yourself out of it, and kicking's pretty much the best way to get yourself out of trouble when you're stuck in your own 20, is like, yeah, you have options. It's like, Isaac and Curtis will be your main options if Finn is there too, and he's wrapped up. You've got 3 massive kicking options from those 3. I was like, why would I waste them on the bench? And that was my whole mentality and the way that I was thinking about it. And so getting these guys in there, like, even when, if you were to bring on the bench, and so, like, I named Dylan Irvin on my bench as well from Nelson College, Jack Jones from Christ College, who's a prop. He's a prop hooker. He used to play prop hooker, and now he's just that prop, but he's a great runner. He's such a good runner. really good runner, really good instincts, strong. And I think that he plays sort of the same as Rickard as well. And then even when you have Thomas Kame is kind of the same from St. Paul's Collegiate, is that Thomas was not a big one of those big massive props, but he's really mobile and active, and he knows how to hang around the ball. He knows how to pick out those opportunities of where he needs to attack and where he's going to attack. And so for me, I was thinking, wow, if we're gonna keep that same dynamic throughout the game, those guys are good. And I know that, you know, if you get guys like Beat Fisher off the bench, off the, you know, the extended squad, is like he can do the same. He's a hard worker as well. I got all these guys a part of it. I also went with Matthew Monaghan from King's College, who's just one of those hard workers from Lock. Ronan Dines was the other one from Otago Boys on the open side. I went with Riley Williams from Auckland Grammar, Mason Allison, and then James White, who are both first fives. James White is pretty solid at fullback as well. And then adjusting all these other guys, so like Payne, Lucas Payne can also play centre as well, which he played in rep rugby too, and played for school in centre as well. So he does have those capabilities. And then having guys like Nick Shearer in there. So, really skillful lot of guys that I had in there, making sure that when, if there was a hypothetical scenario where you're being able to play a game like that, to be able to look at all these boys and go, okay, no matter who I have on there, they're always going to match. They're always going to be able to find some kind of connection, and you're going to go, okay, I can match up these two with this guy and this guy with this guy, and put them in these different kind of scenarios and different places as well. Even with the fact that Finn Hurley, you can push him back to fullback and bring somebody else in, whether it's going to be Curtis Mason, James White, all these kind of guys. It's like, yeah, well, they're all part of the options, And James is not a small kind of guy either. Like, I don't know if he can play second five, but I mean, I'm sure he's one of those guys that'll be like, yeah, I can figure it out. He's kind of tall. He's got a bit of size to him too. Now, when obviously we're sorting out these teams, the other guy that I want to talk about too is Waka Naunga from Whanganui Collegiate, who was probably the best midfielder in that in the quad tournament down there, between Wellington, Nelson, Whanganui, and Christ's. He was probably one of the best ones out, and just really explosive kind of guy, and so that's why I had him in there. He was such a massive talent. Even when I kind of noticed that when he was playing St. Paul's and he missed out that game, the attack just wasn't there, which wasn't the same without him there, and because he gives so much problems and headaches in terms of how explosive and strong he is, it does take a lot out of the value of him not being there. So, looking at him, I was thinking, no, I can't really leave him out. That's you got to have him in there somewhere. And so I went with him as one of the guys that finished off. Toby Mellon, and also Toby Crosby was the other ones that I had from Silverstream, both from Silverstream. Toby will be one of the mix. He's going to be one of the the big hookers coming back next year that will push for New Zealand secondary schools too. And he's such a strong player. I think he's already got the size that you kind of want in club rugby now, and then over the next year it's going to be more of the experience and just getting used to it. The physicality is probably the other one too that he's going to have to go through and get a bit of experience and scar tissue on those eyebrows and stuff, and so and just getting his head in there and just getting the work. But Toby is one of the guys that I'm pretty much watching out for next year, and just that huge list of like big time hookers coming back next year. And so like I think that's he's one of the guys that everyone should probably have a look out for next year. Creating this Samoan team, obviously I wasn't scratching for talent or anything like that. And it wasn't really about talent. It was more about who fits. Like, who fits in there? Like, who's the better guy for the job, I guess, or who fits right in terms of a game against the New Zealand secondary schools. And that's kind of how I did it, obviously, because I picked them first, and I thought, well, if I was going to play New Zealand secondary schools and I had to pick a Samoan team, these are the guys that I would put together to make sure I play them. So that's why I went with Steve Salalea from King's High School, and he made New Zealand Barbarians last year. Leon Tuiloma was the other one from Rathkill College, who's a young year 13. And then Mahonrai Ova'a is the other one who's the captain of King's High School. All three guys, all running players. They're all running players. They're all big ball carriers. Steve's great in the scrums. Mahonrai, you play sort of between second five and centre and have him sort of run those lines. And then the best thing about Mahonrai is that he's more of a ball player than anything else. And he is a big time distraction because of how fast he actually is. It's not about the way, it's not just the fact that he's running the ball, it's that he's running the ball and he's cut down your decision time by how fast he's actually running. And there's like kind of that thought of like, oh yeah, I've got big fella here, and it's like, oh, big fella's in front of me already, like I haven't even looked at my options kind of yet. And then that's where he makes his plays off, is that he has a lot of guys that run off him. He's got a lot of inside guys that cut, guys running on angles and stuff like that. He's running as a dummy runner, and which can get scary too, because you're just like, wow, if you're a defender, you kind of have to commit. Someone has to commit to him. Just, out of security, someone has to commit to him. Even if you see runners running behind him and you know that the ball's going there, it's just the other thing. I was just like, oh, well, if he doesn't get it, then, that's going to be my gap kind of thing. So working off someone like him, I want someone like Maya Tema Schmidt from Scots College, as well as AJ Malili Malo Lawano is the other one that from Fielding High School, who has had a massive year this year. And at blindside, I really, because he's had a good blindside year, but he's also one of those guys that you can lift. Because he's 6'4", 6'5", maybe 6'4.5", something like that. And Xavier Saifaloy is from Botany Downs, is also the same size, but he's heavier. He's also a heavier runner. He's more of a league runner. Like, I would play him, I've said this before, I'll play him at league. I'll play him prop at league. And he's so big and he's so fast. And I would have him there too. And so I thought, well, in a scenario that was like, well, if we're going to have a line out, we have all these tall guys. So if we got Maya, who's 6'6", we got AJ, who's 6'4", 6'5", or 6'4.5", Xavier, who's 6'4", 6'5", Lenz Moranga, who's from Manurewa High School, is a year 12, and he's 6'5", 6'6", and we have all these tall guys, and it's like, cool, well then we can just mix it up. Like, you can have a 4-man lineup with just, Maya, AJ, Xavier, and Lenz, and everyone be a line-out jumper and lifter. And mix it up like that, and then you can set your guys out like Mahonrai and them, and Mahonrai and Leon out there in sort of attack mode, and then use it like that, and then having Pele Antonio from Shirley Boys High School out there as well, or just have him standing way at the back or something like that. Having those kind of setups where you're going, okay, if I have all this height, all this athleticism, and they're all strong and they'll be able to lift, it's like, cool, let's just have them, all 4 of them there, and we don't know who's getting the ball. I'm making sure that we have all these kind of options as well. So when I kind of thought about it like that and going, well, if we play the New Zealand secondary schools, I'll make them change to what we are. Because I'll put out more jumpers, more options, taller guys, then you guys figure out how you're going to mark up against us. Whether you guys have 2 props, or you guys have, 3 locks, or, 2 locks on a blindside, sorry, not 3 locks, that's impossible. But having those kind of scenarios, it's like, well, you match up against us, you guys change. Kind of thought about it like that, in that way. Having Cham Tuala there, it was either Afa goes into half, and then I bring someone else in, or have Cham Tuala there and then sort of mix it up that way. And so Cham Tuala, who's year 12 and playing for De La Salle, I just thought of him more as a quick a quick ball action guy and just to get the ball out. Real fast, speedy kind of, rangy kind of guy, and just like, let's just get the ball out, because Afa Lily runs a lot at Napier Boys High School, and he's just attack mode all the time. Afa I could have put it at fullback, but I wanted PJ Mwese there from Sacred Heart College, and because you had Joshua Williams from Wellington on my wing, you had Kerry Penitito from St. John's College from Hastings there as well, and then you had Dimitrik Vaimonga was the other one. All these guys who are big, solid runners, real talented with the ball, all play with really good footwork, and I just wanted them all to be attack mode all the time. Just pure attack mode. I wanted a big midfield field though, with Yeti Campbell and Dimitrik Vaimonga from De La Salle, and then just had it, and then Yeti Campbell's from Scots College, another year 12, who's really going to be a big time player next year, and just having those kind of options as big boys who can run, but also skillful in terms of passing the ball off. Yeti's also got a really good kicking game, which is something that we'll be able to back up for Afa, and that's kind of how I thought about it in that way, and when I put it together. And even having guys, so even like my bench was stacked up with attacking players, and then safe defenders. Not like highly defensive players, but safe defenders at least. Like I have A1 Lolo Fee from Hastings Boys High, who's a young year 13. Richie Tupua Lelei from St. Thomas, who's a year 12 prop. Emmanuel Furin from Shirley Boys, who also, having Emmanuel and A1 for me became more not size but mobility in the sense of work rate, and I just wanted those two on there at the same time kind of thing. Bringing on Daniel Langa Slade from Manurewa High School, who's year 12, and also that Blair Fuimono Tangi from St. Peter's, St. Peter's College, who's also year 12, was me kind of looking at the same game plan of if I'm going to take some height off, I want to replace that same height and keep that same momentum and pattern right throughout the whole thing. And Blair's one of the best line-out jumpers that I've seen this year. And it's not even the fact that he's the tallest, because he's not. He's actually the smallest of the guys. He's actually the shortest of those guys. But the fact that he can get up there quick, get his hands on the ball, and he's really safe in the air. I don't even think I've probably got to watch a lot of the footage that I've already taken in some of the games. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him really sort of bumble the ball up in the air. Like, once his hand's on it, he just brings it down, he snaps it down, and sets a really good maul straight away. And I like that kind of play when it comes to him. Devon Sipuanga was the other one that I really liked from Wellington College in terms of halfback, that once Charm comes off. Devon, who's also a year 12, goes back on and then keeps that same energy and same pace the whole way through, and just plays that just dynamic, fast pace of rugby. And he did it really well with Wellington College too, which I liked a lot, because that back line to me was the best thing about Wellington College. So if I had him, and then I also had Joshua Williams from Wellington College on my wing, who's one of the bigger runners out there, this year, is just like, why not have that kind of connection when I bring it into the Samoan under 18s. Then I had Xavier Taele as well, who from St. Kennigan's, who I liked. I liked the look of him and Cody Vai from St. Peter's School, Cambridge, who are both year 12. I like the look of those two being on the field, changing the dynamic of a midfield, with Cody going at second 5 and then having Xavier at centre, and then really try and spread the ball and really try and play in space, and also with kicking options, like both of them just really smart players. And so that's kind of how I saw that playing out. King's House Tupuola from Lindisfarne College, who's year 12, he's another one I liked. Him, Senile is the same, who's another year 12 from St. Pat's Silverstream. And King's House moving from blind from loose trio to the front row as a hooker, I thought was one of the best things. And if he comes, like if Kings comes back in shape with a lot of muscle on him, and his fitness was actually pretty good too. If he comes back with a lot of muscle on him, just a lot of size, cut all that weight and stuff like that, like he's going to be a hard guy to play against, and he's going to be a hard guy to overlook because he's so smart and skillful. A lot of these players who are year 12 going into year 13, a lot of them just don't know how to work out in the gym, and he's not really the only one. It's just like a lot of them like that. It's just not really our thing as New Zealanders, like. Since I've been over the States, how many times and looked at them and, studied, those guys are always in the gym. And it's just not really a New Zealand thing to get in the gym when you're in a teenage year. And like, maybe we're wrong. I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're just not that educated in how much it really gets us ahead. But in terms of gym strong, we seem to be behind. And if Kings was one of those guys that went into, got into the gym over this off-season, really built himself up, I can see him as one of those guys that you're just like, I don't know if I want to play against him today. Or like, how often can I get someone else to take on him? Kind of one of those situations. He's just so big and strong now. You just kind of think, with a big body, in shape. Sunil was probably the other one as well. It's just like he's just a raw talent. Seems to be a strong scrummager, a good runner. He had a really good game against St. Pat's Town. The second... in the semis where he played really strong, even the semi-final, not in the semi-finals, when he played them during the round on TV, he just had a really strong game. I saw his other game against Scots where he had a really good game. I saw another one where he played against Wellington College, and I would say, I think another one I saw of him, I think it was that one. I think it was that game, but he just had really good running games, really good, and it was just strong running games. No mistakes, strong running games, not chancing anything, knowing exactly what he had in his possession and how much it meant, and then just, going to ground and just giving a good place and just, making some meters. The only one that sort of falls out of place, I think, is probably Tanner Stowers Smith from St. Bede's, who is a number 8, and he's sort of the height of a hooker, but really strong runner. So he's probably the other one that's out of the mold that I wanted. But then even Taiao, Paul Maletaimi is probably the other one, who is a lock, but can also play blindside, and he's from Manurewa High School as well. And he's one of those really good line-out jumpers. I think if him and Blair being at the same time on the field would be just a dream, because you'd be able to have two safe hands, two really tall guys, get them up really quickly, and then, be able to control, what you want to control. Tony Solomona from Silverstream was another one that I liked. Having him, Michael Tuala from King's College, who I would play on the wing and then have him every kickoff, have him chase and be the first guy there. Every kind of kick, have him chase, be the first guy there, and just use his speed all day, and have him challenge, have him challenge up in the air, getting him just there just to challenge all the time, and make them focus on that point, and then every ball kicked down, and he's actually a really safe tackler. I think because of how fast he is, people, because they know that it's sort of his time, they just watch how fast he gets there, not actually what he does when he gets there. And I actually think that he's a really safe defender. I like the way that he, and for someone going so fast, anticipate when to stop and really know sort of his distance and what he can cover. I haven't looked at so much how he moves vertically, horizontally, in terms of that kind of stuff, because he's always been so fast to get there. He just goes and then shuts down, shuts them down. So that was kind of like another thing. And Bethel Malasia was the other one that I had from Napier Boys, who can cover anywhere in the back line. He's just real talented guy. Having those kind of guys fit into my Samoan under-18 team is to me was quite simple, and the adjustments are just just easy adjustments. Easy just slide over, and the other guy just goes in. That sounded rude. So my New Zealand Barbarian, or my New Zealand secondary schools team, I had as my number one, I had Tony Toffa from Kelston. I had Shea Portucker from New Plymouth Boys High School at hooker, and then I had Siale Lawaki as well at from St. Pat's Town. I don't really know how to explain it, because they were just always, like, Siale was, I said this before, Siale was making breaks all the way down the field. He was getting runaway tries. Really good work rate. He actually had a better work rate this year than I thought he did last year. Because to me, his work rate last year was more about his runs. But I saw him actually do a lot of work off the ball as well this year. Even in terms of getting into his feet better, it's like he just knew how to tackle properly, where he wasn't putting himself underneath the player. He was putting himself into tackles where he was the one driving through it, but also keeping enough balance to stay on his feet to try and get a turnover. He didn't get a lot of big massive turnovers, but at least he had himself in that position to be a threat to do that. Because that's kind of what you want anyway. Like, you can't expect every guy to be an open side quickness and to his feet and all that kind of stuff. But I always thought that was what he did a lot of this year that he didn't do last year. Tony is kind of the same, Tony Tuffer, when obviously I didn't really agree with him being selected into New Zealand Barbarians or even to under 18s, because he didn't even start for his team for Kelston Boys half the time. And that was because he was transitioning from a rugby league player, just learning how to play rugby. It's not his fault, it was just what he was doing. And then I understood that the raw talent of who he was and what he could be, that's what they were going for, and it worked. Like, the Blues did really great with him coming in, and Kelston worked really hard on him, making that switch from rugby league into rugby. And then even his technique got really good over the off season, and then this year he was actually a really good scrummager, and it's so much so that I'm not worried about him going into club, because it's only going to take a minor adjustment for the older guys to go, okay, this is what you're doing a little bit wrong, just adjust this, and this is how we do it at club rugby, and then he'll be able to learn, and he's not too far off the pace. Whether if he left school last year, went into club rugby this year, he would get smashed in those scrums in club rugby. And so him having being year 12 last year, coming into year 13, and really working on that stuff, coming from league, I really give a lot of props to the prop on being able to prop that. 3 props in a sentence. So I went from Taylor Cahill for my locks, and I don't think that's even an argument. I don't know what the selections are going to be today, but surely this guy makes it. Surely he makes it. I don't know anyone that ever saw him this year thought that he was just not at all. I never even saw him have one bad game. I saw him have a short game because he got concussed against Tauranga Boys, and that was him putting his head in the wrong place. It wasn't the runner. It was just him. And I think he would agree with that too. He put his head in the wrong spot, and hip to the head or thigh to the head, something like that. And it was just one of those freak ones where he was stepping, he was going in, kind of thing. He couldn't have timed that well at all. Like, that was just too quick for anyone to adjust what they were doing. But Taylor hits hard. He really punishes guys, and it's one of those ones that you hear on the sideline when he hits guys. And I always talk about the game against Auckland Grammar, against him and Gage Jackson, where those two, both of them actually had massive games, were probably the best guys on the field that day. And just seeing how competitive they both were at such a high level. And I love that stuff. I love that stuff so much, seeing guys like that play at such a high level against each other. I remember Hayes Perrin and Quintu Paia did that too in the same game. In one of those Rotorua Boys Hamilton games, they did that too, where it was just such a, just one of those kind of, I think the other one I remember was Wesley, when Tupou and Josh Lord was doing the same thing too. Those guys had this a massive game against each other too. It was just one of those kind of things. And you know, like, I'm not too sure. I think it was Dalton and Hoskins was the other one. When Hoskins was year 12, I think it was. I might be getting years mixed up in that one, but I think it was just seeing two of the best go at each other, and then both of them have good games and really excel in what they were doing. And so, both of them obviously on this team, but then Shea Clark is the other one, and I have Shea as a lock because I feel like we have enough good loose forwards that having Shea on the bench or having someone else on the bench or I would rather just move Shea to lock, who's 6'5", 6'6", plays tough, plays aggressive, does a lot of work, and then you can have Torian Barnes on the field as well from St Andrews and not just waste Torian on the bench like that, because I think you need someone like Torian's athleticism on the field at the same time, and he's one of those guys that really got into the gym, and he came back a flippin' Hulk, and it didn't slow him down either, which was the other great thing to see, is that it didn't make him slower. It didn't make him, he didn't lose any agility or mobility in that. He just kept the same thing, but he was just a man. He was just a man on the field at that point. So I wanted Shea Clark and Torian Barnes on at the same time. Also have Cooper Flanders, who, yes, he's been playing number 8, but I think he's better at a 7. We don't have any of these high talented 7s around in the country. But even then, I don't think Cooper Flanders is an 8. I think he'd be better as a 7. And then because you got someone like Malachi Rampling, Alec there from St. Paul's Collegiate, who I think has been the best number 8 in the country in terms of, especially running the ball and finding those gaps is probably one of the best things about his game. Is that not that just he finds the gap, but he finds the gap, breaks through it, and then immediately looks for where his options are. And then knowing that guys like, Jay Broomfield were around, Lincoln Winters was there, he always had Jaden Williams was always there too, guys like that around there. Lycan was always kind of, feeding off him too, or like if he's just set him up, stays on his feet and carries on and things like that. Anudu was always there. So I like that kind of thing with Malachi, is that even though he made the break, he always knew that he had the support to give us to utilize and use his options and knew where they were. So that's kind of like I like them at number 8, and in this position of a team that was just full of guys that are unselfish but hard workers, and then know what they're playing for. Sam Howling, I think, from Castle Boys, is to me the most obvious halfback running around right now that is the best and is playing at a different level from everybody else. And I've said this before, because I think that the halfback position was pretty slim this year. Next year's going to be tight, and I feel sorry for the year 12s. But next year's there's going to be a bunch of you guys at 9 that are all going to be battling for these positions. But this year, I felt that Sam was clearly better than everybody else. And for someone like him to have that great flow to his game, like it never feels like he's panicked or pressured or anything like that. Speaks really well and communicates a lot with his players, which I always really liked about him. I think that he's just the perfect fit for whoever you had at first 5. And then obviously that first 5 position is the argument. So everyone knows that Taha Kemara and also AJ Whaleawhanga, both of them being at solid first 5s. And I spoke about this before. I would have Taha at first 5, and then I have AJ at fullback. And only because I know that AJ can play fullback, and I'm not going to leave one of those guys on the bench. You're an idiot if you put one of those guys on the bench. It's just not. I just don't think it's smart. You know, you just can't have that kind of talent on the bench. Jericho York from Rotorua Boys. I don't know if you can name a better winger than him. Every single game, he was the best winger. Every single game. Every single game he dominated. I can't, you just need to watch his games too. Just go. I mean, obviously, Rotorua Boys' whole season is pretty much on live stream, and so you watch him, and he was always just one of the best players on the field. Always was. Such a strong runner, such a strong ball carrier, a strong offloader, good fend, really good footwork, not selfish at all. Good defender as well, which I really, really liked. And Chase, he did a lot of work off the ball, even if it was just covering space. Like, he always did that kind of stuff. And so he was my best winger. And then I thought about it. I thought, well, if we're going to have one massive winger on one side, I want to put the other massive winger on the other side. So I went with Jeremiah Ussie, even though I like him at fullback and sometimes centre, but fullback most of the time. I thought, well, if AJ's back there, I want Jeremiah Ussie on the other side. And so if I had Jericho and Jeremiah on both sides, both strong runners, great return guys with space and time, I would rather push that as my attack all the time. Almost tempt teams to kick it down, and then you guys can take care of the problem when it happens. And then Jericho and Jeremiah would be the problems that they're going to have to take care of. And then even that, man, is just like, jeepers, you're going to, depending on who your wingers are going to be, you better put like a blindside out there or a lock out there or someone that's big that can take these runners, because they're just so heavy, fast and heavy guys. I couldn't leave Dawson Smith out. I need him on the field. Just so smart, just a smart guy who knows tempo and knows game management, and just a great option on the field too. And then him being able to play different positions actually convinced me to put him at second five instead of have him on the bench. And so I went with Dawson Smith from St. Peter's School, Cambridge, and Sean O'Leary from Whanganui Collegiate. And Sean was just another guy too that just didn't do anything wrong. I was so impressed with the way that he worked to go from second five to first five and still keep his ability to be valued on the field, and the talent level, even though he adjusted his position, was still up there, and he still kept it high. Obviously, there was Francis Manuleleua was the other one that I had thinking to put in there at second five or centre from King's College, who's also year 12. But I thought, well, if I could bring Dawson off and put him in inside of the second half, and then working it from that angle, and then have Francis just sort of get on there and just rip into it for that last 20 minutes or so. But I had Francis Manuleleua and then Peyton Spencer, who were both year 12, and then either whatever you want to do, either take AJ off at fullback and put on Peyton Spencer, or take off Dawson, move everybody in, move Jeremiah to centre, put Peyton on the wing, and then even Peyton can play first five too. So if you wanted to switch him around and put him in the first five, have Taha at the back, whatever stuff like that. Just have all these kind of options. And then Bradley Campbell from St. John's College, Hastings, was my second half, was my halfback on the bench, and he was the other one that I wanted to go to as well. I had Toby Taylor in there. All my guys were runners in this front row, so we moved to front row. All my guys were runners, so I kind of kept that same thing with Tane Kolosi, who was one of the best running hookers around this year. Toby Taylor, who's probably the biggest guy, the biggest jump up within the rankings. Him moving into take out Tony and put in Toby, and then put in Gabe as well, Gabe Robinson from Hamilton Boys. And then I had Gage Jackson filling in as a lock, loose or something like that from Auckland Grammar, And then I had Gala Malasia from Napier Boys as well, who is just one of those guys that I just really liked, the way that he conducted himself even in game. He's not like this big, massive, exciting kind of working number 8 like that, but he just puts in a lot of work and a lot of effort into all the small stuff. And like I said, he's probably one of the guys that might have to change his position and be a really good prop at the next level. But, I mean, those guys can figure it out once they get there. So on my bench, so on my wider squad, I had Hendrix Taylor, who's also a number 8 that I thought would be a better hooker because he's played hooker before. And he plays sort of just the same as Shea Portucker, and just really good mobile guys, but short, stocky kind of fellas that I think you can easily adjust into those hooker positions. Then I had Moses Magoon from Hamilton Boys, strong scrummager this year, not as dynamic and explosive as the other guys, but really good set player within scrum time and in the tight game around the rucks. Sam Morgan's probably the open side from St. Pat's Silverstream, who I think probably mostly fills the role as an open side that you would want. Extra fast. That's what he is. He's just extra fast. Flies around the field, makes tackles, and great when he gets the ball. Andre Smith is the other one from St. Peter's School, Cambridge, who can cover lock and 6 and 8 if needed. And then even someone like Gage, if he can have it, he played open side for the under-18 Blues last year, so maybe he could do the same there. But Sam Morgan's the one that usually would take that. I had Luke Kane Rid from Pukekohe, who can cover centre. And I just think he's one of those guys that, big, tall centre, hard running guy, good timing, strong crash ball kind of guy. Another guy that just needs players around him that can really give him opportunity, but him also create opportunities on the other side of that. And then Chicago Doyle, Chico from King's College, he'll be the other one that will cover wing fullback as well. And then I had Ben Donovan from St. Bede's College, who's a year 12, who's my leading halfback for next year, in the stacked class of halfbacks for next year. And he's just a solid player. He's a solid guy. Really did his work over the off season and he looked great this year. And probably a really big player for St. Bede's this year, and why they were such a good consistent team is what I really liked about them. And so that's one of the guys that you should probably look out for this year as well. So those are my picks. Those are personally my picks. They've got nothing to do with New Zealand Rugby and who they pick. I have no selection power or anything at all. It's all them, and these are just my thoughts and how I would pick it and what I've seen this year. And just from following these guys from when they were young as well. Good luck to everybody that does get selected. I don't know how they're going to play the games. I was told that it was a game of 3 halves kind of thing with the Māoris, under-18 Māoris, and also the New Zealand Barbarians. And so, it's... I don't know, I'm just curious to see what they pick. All the guys that I picked is just my opinion. Got nothing to do with New Zealand Rugby, anything like that. It's just what I think and feel and what I've seen over this whole year. But that is... I don't know if I'll make a video about the team or anything like that. But I'm keen to go to some more games. I know Cambridge and Matamata having their finals as well. Scots College and Silverstream are getting ready for their finals. I don't really know what's happening with North Harbour. I haven't really heard anything or seen anything either. And also with Christchurch, with the Miles Toyota, I keep forgetting what it's called. Miles Toyota championship as well. I don't really know what's happening with them in their finals, but I'll try and find out. I still think that they should have them, but as well as that, looking forward to the reps, the region camps as well. I'll be going to the Chiefs ones. I'm looking at going to the Hurricanes ones, and then I'm looking at going to the Crusaders and Highlanders game as well. Hoping to get there. I've had it set up. I just got to get the okay, and then yeah. So hopefully I can catch that game. I'm really keen to. I mean, I did the drive, not last year, the year before, all the way down to Timaru, which was great, and it was cool seeing that game as well. Those games, and so I like. I want to try and get down there. So hopefully everything turns out right, and then if not, then I'll be in. Obviously, I'll be watching the Chiefs and the Hurricanes and Turangi as well, and watching those A's and B's play. And then I think everyone's waiting for this Hurricanes list to come out too, and see who they have. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Congratulations to everyone that gets picked, and the official ones, not my ones, just the official ones. Congratulations, all your hard work, all that kind of stuff. This is Herschel from High School Top 200. Peace.